So then we turn to the debrief itself. So they were the setup considerations. So we think about the debrief itself. So I've really tried over the years to think about, shortening them or lengthening them, and they really work for 60 minutes. So you'll see, later on as we do demonstrations, I would love to be able to do these 30-minute demos for you, but it's really hard because you can't get the value from that conversation in those 30 minutes. So it will traditionally take about 60 minutes, and through the thousands, that's a good time. So stick with that. And of course, the majority of that needs to be around strengths, a lot less time around learned behaviours and weaknesses. But, so diary-wise, 60 minutes. I've run a lot of virtual debriefs as well, and they work well because that can really help engage people. They feel not so inhibited because you're on the phone. But just for your energy levels as well, I would just think through what would it look like if you had to do 5 or 6 of them in a day over the phone, because you tend to have to be a bit more energetic because you're on the phone and you can't it's positive psychology at strengths. I'm going to get the best out of you, but they're on the phone. So maybe even a Skype call or WebEx if you are going to do them virtually. We do have the option to be able to withhold profiles. We don't recommend you do it in the first instance unless there's a really good reason for it. Perhaps, I've known instances where perhaps it was a younger audience and they hadn't given the information out about the tool in advance, so they withheld profiles. But you can withhold a profile. I know for some of you that might be your preferred way of working, but we would encourage you to let your coachee see their profiles in advance of your session with them. Give them the heads up. What's it all about? What's the context? Why are they doing it? Particularly if you're in an organisation and it's part of a bigger rollout for something. So in that debrief conversation, at the very outset, understand what it is that they want to achieve. Even if you've already, that it's because they've got a team development session that someone or someone else is running for them. So the context is there about why you're doing it. It's still really important to say, hey, what's in it for you? What would you like to get out of this session today? So you're always looking for that goal. And sometimes it might be something generic. It might be, do you know what? I just want to talk about my unrealised strengths, or I'm confused about my learned behaviours, or I thought, whatever it is, work with that, and you've got something to steer the information or the results around as well. So even if you already know the context about why you're doing what you're doing, talk about the business case of it and talk about something that they can get from it themselves personally, because they might be stuck on something, they might be working towards something that you can genuinely help them outside of the context, or why you already know why you're doing it. That team development session, the manager session, you can help them towards achieving something quite personally as well. In every single debrief, you can sense the passion. You must walk through the model. What is a realised strength, unrealised strength, learned behaviour, weakness? Explaining the nuances between those, because it might seem obvious to you, but walking through in that order: realised strengths, learned behaviours, weaknesses, and unrealised strengths. And why we do that is because we want to start positive. We want the stories. Why you do what you do, why it's important to you, where you've come from. Why the journey, why are you on this journey? The realised strengths. We look at learned behaviours. Okay, so this is still what you're good at, but perhaps, maybe not so natural to you. We look at the weaknesses. Okay, so these might be stopping you or have an impact. What can we do? And then we finish with the unrealised strengths. So that passion around, the motivation, what you've got in your hidden box, what you could be doing more of. We finish with the goal around the unrealised strengths, ideally, to bring it all together. So that's why we do it in that order, and that's really key to kind of going start and finish with that energy, so allow you that opportunity to do that strength spotting there as well. And I think also with the goal, just going back to that as we finish here, is around saying, well, if you don't get the goal, then you've got nothing to kind of set the goal or the action at the end as well. So even if they said, I just want to know more about my unrealised strengths, you can say, do you feel like you've achieved the goal today? Have you understood more about your unrealised strengths? And you also know timing-wise where to focus more time in what quadrant as well. So there's some sort of basic debrief essentials. We've also got a guideline for you to be looking at in terms of homework after this session as well.